You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're on another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm excited today. I've got a guest who was a quick turn in my scheduling queue. He's a gentleman I met through a webinar that I attended. I found it fascinating. I got real excited about the tool that he offers, and I'm full disclosure, I'm now an official user and subscriber. We'll talk about what it is. But what it amounts to, it's the ability for you as a business owner or even a leader in a larger scale company to think about practical ways to turn AI on if your business doesn't already have some special team or think tank developing AI specific to what you need to do. This is about functionally and process oriented and getting some AI agents to do pieces of work for you on a regular, routine, scalable basis. And I'll leave all that for more as we get into it. But anyway, my guest is Jacob Bank. Jacob, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much, Doug. I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah. So there's a tradition here on this show that with a lot of my guests, I ask people to give us a little bit of backstory. What got you into what you're doing now?
So my backstory starts actually as an AI researcher. I thought I was going to be a professor one day. I was pursuing a PhD in the AI lab at Stanford, and my research was always at the intersection of cutting edge AI models and productivity tools. So in particular, what I thought was going to become my PhD dissertation was an AI assistant that lives inside your digital calendar and tries to help you spend time on what's important to you, whether it's writing a memo or writing code every day or giving a presentation to a client, etc. I ended up dropping out of my PhD to start my first company, which was an ad-powered digital calendar called Timeful. We were acquired by Google. I then spent 6 years at Google, where I led the product teams for Gmail and Google Calendar and some of the other Google Workspace productivity and collaboration tools that you may have used. And now I've been working on Relay.app, which is a platform to build AI workflows and agents for the last 3.5 years. And so my whole career arc has been around AI and productivity tools, both in the context of academic research and then building a startup and then working in a very large company. Funnily enough, something we'll probably get into later is I always wanted to be a teacher. That was always my goal growing up. I always loved teaching. Even when I was in 5th grade, I was like a little teaching assistant for the 3rd graders, and I always have loved it. And then when I ended up dropping out of grad school, I veered away from that path. But now, as it's turned out, in my second startup, our main marketing strategy is education. And so that webinar that you mentioned, that's pretty much all I do now. I teach people how to use AI practically in their business, and then some percentage of those will sign up for the product, and some percentage of those will be paying subscribers, whether immediately or maybe a year or two later. But so my career, while it has been consistent in its focus on AI for productivity, it's kind of come full circle, and then I now get to actually, help teach people where this can be useful for them.
Yeah. Well, I can attest, Jacob's done a great job of not only in getting the tool built, but doing some of the teaching he talks about. His offering is chock full of helpful video snippets and little guides and tips and tricks and prefabricated bots, if you will, that you can leverage. And then, you can download them, take them into your own workspace and tweak them accordingly, specifically to what you've got going on. Again, I'll say the name of it. It's relay.app. I will have links to get to it. You can see it and you can check it out. All those links will be in the show notes and everything. But, one of the things that caught my attention, Jacob had what was it on Nathan's deal? You had about a 10-minute spot on his webinar that day.
Yeah, he gave me a few minutes. And the reason I was on that presentation was I had written a LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago where I said that my marketing team is me plus 40 AI agents, which is true. I'm the only person responsible for marketing at our company, and I wouldn't be able to produce all the content that I do without my AI agents. And so on this LinkedIn post, I showed a diagram, an org chart of how these 40 AI agents all work together, which ones focus on content creation, which ones focus on lead enrichment and qualification, which ones focus on webinars and event setups. And it turned out that there was a lot of interest in that post. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that post on LinkedIn has more comments than any other post in the history of LinkedIn. It had about 20,000 comments. And the reason I think this was so resonant was not because I showed one particular agent in detail, but it showed a real example of what I think a modern business is going to look like, where the org chart is going to have maybe the same number of humans, maybe fewer humans, but a lot of AI making us all better. And I know a lot of the people listening are small business owners or work inside a small business, and most of our customers are small businesses. And so every small business owner I've ever talked to, and I talk to like 10 a day, every single one has more that they want to do than they currently have time to do. Like, I've never talked to anyone who's like, oh, yeah, everything's going perfectly. I don't have anything else I want to be doing. And the first instinct we typically all have is we reach for hiring a person. Like, oof, I want to do more lead outreach. I've got this hot list of 1,000 leads and I just don't have time to get on the phone with all of them. Let me hire someone to do some phone calls for me. Or, oh, wow, like we're expanding our operation. We're now having 6 trucks doing roofing instead of 3 trucks doing roofing. And now I need an operations manager to help me do all the an office manager to help me do all the scheduling and the paperwork and stuff. And so we all have more that we want to do than we have time to do. And for the last ever, the instinct has always been, ooh, I need to hire someone else to help me with that. Whereas now your instinct can actually be, I could actually build my own AI agent or tool that will help me with that. If you want to cold call another 1,000 leads, you can build an AI agent to do that. If you want to automatically schedule the right of your 6 trucks to go out to the right roofing site, you can build an AI agent to do that. And of course, AI agents are not going to have all of the capabilities that people have, and you will still need human judgment and decision making and intuition and all that. But it's just so exciting to see people who are stressed out and feeling like they're not getting everything done that they need to now have this like superpower that lets them do so.
Yeah. Well, I think you're absolutely right. So, a couple things you packed in there that I want to unpack and level set here. And so, I think you're absolutely right. The classic small business, they start to scale and grow. And, for an owner who's really leaning into the growth opportunity, they're going to think about things like creating systems, creating repeatable, scalable process. And classically old school stuff, that's a book or a flowchart or something that you try to train everybody on, and you get them going and you hope that they follow every step. If it's a 10-step process, you want them to do every one of those steps. People are people. They don't always do all the steps. They leave out a piece, they drop something. But more importantly, I think in what you said, the notion of, okay, I got 6 things in my head. I bet I could hire a person to do those. Well, really, what you've done, you've crafted your own custom unicorn
Right.
for that job description, those 6 things, because 4 of those things might be perfectly correlated, connected to each other, but there's 2 more that you really, really wish you had a resource to do, but they're kind of unrelated to the first 4. And to go to market and find a person that understands doing those 4 well and 2 more on top.
Exactly. It's so common to talk to someone and they'll be like, well, here are the 3 responsibilities I need covered in my business. I need someone to keep the books and manage all the invoices. I need someone to do 15 hours a week of cold calls. And I need someone to do customer support, when clients have an issue. You're not going to find one person who has all 3 of those skill sets. And so you have 2 choices, right? You can either hire contractors or part-time contributors for each of those 3 things. And that's tough because now you have more coordination, more people that you're dealing with. Each of them are only partially invested in your business. They all have partial context in what you're doing. You can hire someone who's good at one of those things and tell them, oh, by the way, you're also going to have to do these other 2 things that you might not like and don't have experience in. And we've all had great employees who can step up and do multiple responsibilities when the business demands it, but that's also tough. And so now you just have another tool in your toolbox where you can say like, yes, maybe the thing that really needs that human touch is the calling position. So I'm going to hire a person for that. But I can create my own AI agent to do the bookkeeping and to do the customer support, for example.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's important about what Jacob has brought to the market is that For those of you that hung around with me for a while on the show, I've been an early adopter of AI. I'm kind of an early adopter geek, and I can go back decades and tell you what new technologies I started where I was. And I've never been afraid of the next new thing. So that's my point. And for me, while I have been experimenting with and exploring ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all the mainstream tools that are out there, what I've already encountered in my own experience with this, it's good on the one. You got an idea, you go, hey, Claude, here, I want you to act like you're a marketing guy. I want you to build me a campaign. I want you to da 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 and do these things. But getting Claude to repeat that on a regular basis, if you like the outcome the first time, now you tell them to do it again and again and again. There's no place to really store those prompts to do those things. There's a whole different, very difficult architecture to get into. But with a tool like Relay, you have snippets. I call them snippets of building blocks to put a stream together that may or may not be directly enabled with AI. It may be just a flow mechanism.
And that's why when you said the word flowchart before, I think that's the key thing because there are many people out there that I think are overcomplicating how what you need to know to be able to use AI in your business. And yes, there's a lot of prompting guides and tool calling techniques and fancy diagrams with 200 little things connecting to each other on a chart. But really, if you can build a simple flowchart for your task, you can create an AI workflow or an AI agent that does it. So for example, let's say your flowchart is someone fills out a contact form on our website. I go to their website, I look at the information on it, and I try to determine if they're a good fit for our services. If so, I send them an email with a link to my calendar to book a time. And if they're not, I say, hey, we usually serve this. I send them an email that says, we usually serve this type of customer for these sorts of use cases. From a quick look at your website, it doesn't seem like a perfect fit, but tell me if I got anything wrong. If you can encode that in a flowchart for a junior employee, you can very easily build your own AI agent that does that. You don't need any magical technical skills. You don't need to be able to write code. You don't need to know any technical jargon. You don't even need to know any prompt frameworks or prompt techniques. You just need to have a very clear articulation of here's what I want to happen. Here's the flowchart.
Yeah. Well, and I can share, and I'm not certainly not, worried about telling my audience this. One of the first opportunities I explored when I got Relay and started turning it on and doing it, I said, well, I want some help with my podcast production. And so I took a look. I visualized my flow that I had going, and I think by many standards, and I've talked to a lot of hosts that we've shared notes and we've compared best practices. And if I do say so myself, I think I have a pretty tight process already. It's not a big deal. I don't spend a lot of money producing these shows. Some may say that shows it, but that's another discussion. Um, but I have tried to leverage some tools, but it's been a bit of a manual process to go from one step to the next. Well, now I've used Relay to do some things for me, and I can, cut the audio file, do my editing, my base editing of the output I want to create. So that creates a master audio file. I send that to a transcriber that gives me the full transcript verbatim, but then I feed that into a Relay loop and I ask the AI to summarize it for me and build for me my episode post that I'm going to publish. Also, go build an SEO optimized YouTube description for the video that I'm going to post and update a couple of my control sheets that I've got. I've got a master scheduler control sheet thing of the dates, times, and people that were involved. And now it's doing all of that for me. So I basically have to just start with the raw file and I'll cut down the audio doing my edit, but that becomes my master and that drives everything from there.
It's funny, I do the exact same thing. When I record a YouTube tutorial, I get the audio of it, and then I turn that into a blog post, I turn that into a LinkedIn post, I turn that into a tweet. And this is something that AI is very good at, which is repurposing content from one format and then summarizing it and synthesizing it in another format. One important note is before I publish any content that was created by I always check it first. I always have
Amen.
a
Yeah.
human in the loop step to make sure.
Amen.
And I found that for different use cases, AI is at a different level of quality. So for example, when it comes to posting a tweet, short form tweet, 140 characters about a new YouTube video I've created, I almost never have to change it. It's pretty much spot on every single time. For the LinkedIn post is usually like 300 or 400 words. I'll probably have to modify 10% of it here or there. And then the blog post is a little bit longer, and I'll usually have to modify more like 20% of it,
Agreed.
because I want to get the pacing right. I want to cut out some irrelevant details, etc. And so as we all build intuition about what AI is good at and what AI is not good at and where we need to be involved, it's actually pretty natural. Because this is another thing, a fear that I've heard from people. A fear that I've heard from people is like, oh no, if I let AI do everything, will I lose my own humanity and will I create this AI slop that no one wants to read? And it's like, well, yeah, if you do it badly, you will. But if you use AI for what it's good at and then you keep yourself involved in the process, for example, you still are in charge of the master cut, right? Of like
Right.
figuring out what the base
Right.
material is. Um, I think that's a really important principle to keep in mind, which is don't think of this as that you're losing your agency or you're delegating everything to AI. It's more like the AI is a helpful assistant that's going to
Right.
create the first draft of everything for you, and then
Right.
you take it all the way there. But that's a hesitance I've seen. It's a hesitance I've seen from a lot of people, which is like, ooh, I don't know if I can trust the AI. It's like you shouldn't. You shouldn't. That's why you should double check it before you post it.
Right. No, I agree. And two real quick thoughts. First, pardon my comical interlude here. As you were describing that, all the assistants, I flashed somehow to a scene in the great movie Charlie Wilson's War. Tom Hanks as the congressman. He's got this office full of pretty girls that are all his assistants, and he pretty much just snaps his finger and like six of them run in the room, and they're all taking notes, doing things. And when he says go, then they all scatter to go to different directions to take care of different things. And that's what I thought about when you said
And
all these
it's kind of how
assistants.
I feel right now. Like I just hit the I the way I do it personally is I upload the transcript to a specific folder in Google Drive. And then stuff just happens. I get an email saying your YouTube description is ready for review. Your
Right.
LinkedIn post is ready for review. Your tweet is ready for review. Your blog post is ready for review. Your email newsletter post is ready for review. And then I just go through those one by one and boom, it's done.
That's exactly what I'm doing, and which, by the way, folks, I borrowed one of his templates to do that and get started with it, and it's very flexible, scalable. If you have a Google Drive, you can point it to a folder and say, "Look for something new in this folder," and I'm doing the same thing. I'll drop my brand new transcripts into a dedicated folder, and that's the trigger for the whole process, just as you described. And the other thing, though, I wanted to unpack was the human element. I part of my coaching practice, I am involved with some, Fortune 500 type companies, and inevitably, in a lot of those environments, as an outside contractor or consultant coming in, I'm subjected to taking some of their cybersecurity training and all these
Right.
specialty things they do, and they have to check the boxes, that I'm getting eyes and ears into certain things. But I can tell you that 100% without exception, when I take those courses and those company policy primers, they're saying if you're going to use AI, you got to have the human step. You cannot release, publish, file, archive, post anything that came from AI without a human step in it. So
Yeah,
that
and
is the rule of the road.
the way I think about it, as folks are thinking about where AI makes sense in their business and where it doesn't, I think about how high stakes the use case is and how good AI is at it. So if it's low stakes and AI is very good, you typically don't need a human in the loop. So for example, every week I want a review of all my customer calls from the past week. So I have an AI that looks at all the transcripts from all those customer calls that I've done, and it tries to pull out observations like, here's what people love, here's what people don't love, here's the other alternatives or competitors they're considering. And the only output of that is an internal memo to me. So it's and AI is amazing at it. So AI is great at it and it's low stakes. So that doesn't require a huge amount of human in the loop. On the other hand, when I'm sending a follow up to a potential client with a proposal of services to render to them, that is a very high stakes interaction because this is like the most important artifact that's going to govern this client relationship into the future. And it has to be perfect. And the AI can't possibly have all the context that I have. It doesn't know the nuances of the relationship. It doesn't know the nuances of how much budget this person is likely to have or how much they're in the hot seat with their manager and how quickly they need to show results or whatever it may be. And so that's a case where you must have a significant human in the loop component to actually edit the final output before you send it. And then depending where you are, and then I have a bunch of use cases in the middle, like the posting a tweet for a new YouTube video is a perfect example where it's medium stakes and AI is pretty good at it. Like if the tweet promoting my new YouTube video isn't perfect, it's going to be fine. Like it's not a business ending event. So for that one, I just have a quick approval checkpoint. Just like, yeah, just show it to me. And then 90% of the time I just hit approve. Whereas for personalized follow-up emails after a customer meeting, I always review those carefully and edit the content before I send them.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's break down some of these things that a business owner might be thinking about turning on and implementing. And I guess the big one for me that I know I'm still wrestling with a little bit with the toolkit, and I don't say that disparaging. I'm just saying my learning curve. I'm still working it, trying to figure things out. Lead gen, so identifying a fishing pond to go fishing in. What are some of your thoughts on that as a starting point?
So lead gen is a tough one for AI agents in general. Because, if you type into ChatGPT and say, let's say you want to sell to fast casual restaurants in the San Francisco area, for example. And if you go to ChatGPT and say, find me fast casual restaurants in the San Francisco Bay Area, it'll give you like 10. When in reality, there's probably thousands because AI is not very good right now. This is one of its weaknesses. It's not very good at these unbounded problems where it doesn't know how many things to find. So usually I find 10. And then if you say, no, find all of them, then it'll find 20 or 30. And so with lead gen, you basically have two techniques that I've seen work well. Number one is you can use a different database as the thing the AI works off of. So let's say you use ZoomInfo or Apollo or Clay or one of the other myriad, your local chamber of commerce, whatever. If you use one of the myriad data providers out there, and then you give it a list of 10,000 businesses, and then you ask AI to filter those down to just the fast casual restaurants that have opened in the last 2 years, that'll work really well. So where I've seen the best results in lead gen is you have some underlying data table that you've built up. Either you've bought the list or you downloaded the list from somewhere or you got it from a data provider. And then you ask the AI agent to prioritize the targets within that list and then propose the outreach. That works pretty well. I have seen ways that you can use AI to generate the list, but you need to be a little more clever. You need to basically tell it the process by which it should fill out that list. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for, again, fast casual restaurants open fewer than 2 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. Turns out the San Francisco Bay Area is made up of like 100 different municipalities. And in each municipality, there's like 10 different neighborhoods within that municipality. And so the way you would do it, and you know that, okay, each time I ask AI a question, it's only going to give me back 10 things. So what you'd say is, okay, first, what I want you to do is I want you to enumerate all 100 municipalities in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, for each municipality, I want you to enumerate all the neighborhoods. Now, for each neighborhood, I want you to look for all the fast casual restaurants in that neighborhood that have opened in the last 2 years, and that will work. And so that's another general example of you have to build intuition of what AI is going to be good at out of the box. Like that analysis of customer calls, it's good at out of the box. You just give it 10 transcripts and it gives you a great analysis. With lead gen, you'll find when you play around with it, like, ooh, I need to give it more guidance. I need to give it more instructions. And one of the things that really frustrates me is people will say, oh, I tried ChatGPT for lead gen, didn't work. And I would say, what did you try? And they say, oh, I just typed in find all fast casual restaurants in San Francisco, and it only gave me 10. It's like, yeah, imagine if you hired an intern and then you gave your intern one sentence of instruction, and then they gave you the first 10 and you just said, oh, this intern's not going to work out. No, of course you'd put more effort into training your intern and telling your intern how you wanted to go about them, how you wanted them to go about doing the task, how you give them guidance on the task. And it's exactly the same with AI. So that's a specific example for lead gen. What I've observed in my experience works and doesn't work. But more important than knowing what does or doesn't work within lead gen is kind of knowing how to work with the AI to figure out what its limits are, what its boundaries are, and how to communicate it to it in a way that you'll get the most out of it.
One of my guests many months ago, I guess it could be as long as a year ago, we were talking about AI in general and, should you fear it? Should you not? What do you do? Blah, 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 all the high level stuff. One of the things he pointed out, and this has stuck with me ever since, that, one major way to think about AI is it is nothing more than a human brain that can operate at nano speed and process, thousands and millions more iterations than our normal brains do. But at the core of it, what it is doing, it is performing pattern recognition because that's what our brain does.
That's exactly right. It is predicting, based on all the words I've seen so far, what is the next word I need to say?
Yeah. And it's that pattern recognition item that I apply as you were describing the lead gen thing. You have to anticipate and kind of tell it the pattern you want to go look for.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing that frustrates me is people, let's say you're trying to write a blog post. Let's say let's say you operate a local brewery in Madison, Wisconsin, my hometown, and you want to write a blog post on best 10 local breweries in Madison so that when people are searching for their trip to Madison, they'll stumble across this article and they might come to your brewery. If you went to ChatGPT and said, write me an article with the 10 best local breweries in Madison, Wisconsin, it'll give you something very generic that anyone could have written that won't have any of your unique insights. And so people are surprised. They're like, oh, I wrote this one sentence prompt and the blog post it gave me is very generic. Well, of course the blog post it gave you is very generic because you didn't give it any other history or color or personality or what you want to communicate. And so if you wanted to really write a great thing, you would say like, okay, I want to make sure that this blog post covers what are the best places for sort of young folks who want to be out late? What are the best places for a family to all hang out, on an afternoon that has, activities for the kids? You'd want to compare along all these different dimensions. You might want to speak specifically to here are local beers that people are likely to want to come to Madison, Wisconsin to get, et cetera. And so this is where the mental model of having an intern actually works, which is just like when you have an intern who's helping you out with some work, you need to give them more context, more guidance. The thing that's surprising about AI, though, is this is the thing that took me a long time to wrap my mind around, even though I've been a researcher in this field for like 15 years, is AI will be surprisingly dumb at simple stuff and then surprisingly smart at complicated stuff. So for a long time, up until just the most recent cutting edge models, none of the AI models could tell you how many R's are in the word strawberry. This is like a famous fail. And like my 5-year-old can tell you how many R's are in the word strawberry. She can look at the word strawberry and count the R's, but these very advanced AI models could not do that. On the other hand, I was working with a real estate agent on this super cool use case. I'm going to explain it in a little detail because it'll show how smart AI is. The real estate agent, I think this is pretty common. They have a list of clients who are looking for houses at the moment. And for each client, they have a bit of a description. Like they're looking for this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms in this kind of neighborhood with these kind of features in this kind of price range. You have your client list. And then every day you get the new listings that have come out that day from like the MLS or from Redfin or from Zillow or whatever. And what you'd want to do is every time a great listing comes out, if there was a client on your list, it matched, it would send them a perfect personalized email that says, hey, Doug, this house just came on the market. It's right in the sweet spot of your price range. It's one fewer bathroom than you wanted, but we think a 4-2 can still work. We mentioned a 4-2 can still work for your family. Great outdoor space, perfect for the kids, blah, blah, blah. And so I ran this demo on a client list of like 100 clients and then a new real estate listing with 10 houses that came in. And the AI was perfect. Honestly, it wrote a better email than I could have written. It exactly identified which clients from the client list were appropriate for one of the new houses. It wrote a perfect personalized email of which attributes of that house match the attributes the client was looking for. And you have to keep both those things in your mind. Like it can do that perfectly, but it can't count the number of R's in strawberry. and so, as you get more familiar with AI, you just have to build your intuition about, oh, these are easy things that it's bad at, but here are hard things that it's good at, and you kind of get to know, where it can be most powerful and useful in your business. But don't just because AI gets something simple wrong doesn't mean you should disqualify it from the hard stuff that can be even more valuable.
Right, right. That's almost like that great intern that can turn a lot of work for you, but then when you start editing their reports, they can't spell.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. And I think this is even more common now that, in my generation, we've had spell checker growing up our entire lives. None of us can spell like to save our lives, but we may still have good ideas.
yeah, right. Well, so what are some of the other, maybe what you would describe as major hurdles you've conquered with using some of your tools in your bot population?
The first hurdle is always, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Like I'm new to AI. What do I do with it? And what I typically recommend is people do two things. One is just write down all the departments in your business. If your business has multiple departments, write them down as departments. If you're playing multiple roles in your business, just write those down. Pretty much every business does some amount of sales, marketing, customer support, finance, operations, human resources. Like those are, in my experience, are common to basically every kind of business. And then depending on what industry you're in, you may have other specific elements of how you relate to clients, or you might have industry events, or you might have a manufacturing process, you might have supplier relationships, etc. Just like write down all the hats that you wear in your business. And then in each of those hats, write down the 5 things you wish you could hire a contractor to do today, if the price point was right and if the person had the right expertise. It could be things that you'd hire a junior contractor for, like turning that podcast transcription into, a post. Or it could be things that you'd hire a very senior contractor for, like audit all my books for the last year and make sure like I've maximized all of my tax deductions. So write those down. That'll give you ideas of where AI could be helpful in your business. Then the second thing you need to do is build some intuition about what AI is good at. I have a little cheat sheet. We can send it out afterwards or put it in the show notes. It just says, here are the 9 things AI is good at, with 3 examples of each. AI is good at information extraction. For example, given an invoice, extracting the amount, the due date, and the vendor name for you to put into your finance system. AI is great at summarization. Given a 55-minute podcast recording, summarize the top insights into one page. AI is very good at research. Given a profile of a guy named Doug, go look up his professional experience and his business and what his pain points might be right now. AI is very good at content writing and content creation. Given this long FAQ that we've created and this specific customer email, like write a draft from the FAQ that'll meet this customer's specific needs. I won't go through all the detailed examples. AI is good at synthesis. It's good at analysis. It's good at coaching. It's good at grading. And so once you go through those 2 exercises of internalizing what AI is good at and writing down what your business does or where you wish you had help, you'll just see the connections like light up between those things. You're like, oh man, it is really annoying at the end of every month when I have to check all the invoices to make sure they're categorized appropriately in the bookkeeping tool. Oh, turns out AI is really good at classification and categorization. I can use AI for that. Or, oh man, it is really annoying that after every customer call, it takes me like 15 minutes to write a great follow-up meeting because I have to look back at the notes and I have to reference exactly what we talked about. Sure would be nice if AI could write 80% of that email for me. Or, oof, sometimes when I'm meeting a client who just booked a call with me last minute, I don't have the time to do all the research I wish I had done. I don't have time to look up their business and their details. Sure would be nice if AI could automatically do that research for me before every call. And then what I found is the ideas just start flowing like crazy. And once you get the ideas, then you just have to pick one to get started to build the technique.
Yeah. Well, and again, on that note, I'll reiterate what I've found so valuable about the structure and the opportunity inside the Relay tool is that you have those thoughts that you think about. You go, oh, well, if this happens, I'm going to do this. Well, that's a trigger event, and you can
Yeah.
build a bot that is triggered by that event. And if it's 2 steps, 5 steps, 10 steps, it'll all lay out in there.
Yeah, and it's just flowcharts. Again, you're going to hear all these complicated technical terms like memory and knowledge base and tool calling and large language model and context window and prompt. And eventually you'll need to understand, all of those words and what they mean. But if you can draw the flowchart on a whiteboard or on paper, you will be able to create an AI system that does it for you.
Well, the other thing I'll mention, I'll just throw out a plug. One of the things I explored, publishing podcast episodes, it's hard to get creative with your thumbnail image if you're doing
Yep.
YouTube. And I've been trying to work on a couple of different AI solutions to prompt for the creation of those thumbnails. But one of the things, per your guidance and suggestion, and one of your templates, I had AI take that transcript of the episode and I told it to write me a prompt for image graphic generation.
Yeah.
And I could sprinkle in some nuances of what I wanted that graphic to
Right.
include in the prompt. And now I get this nice snippet of code that then I can go to my AI image generator and give it that prompt. And I'm not retyping anything, it's a cut and
Yeah.
paste. And
Yeah,
I
and
get
that's already very advanced to chain things together like that. One other thing I was thinking might be interesting about image generation is, I'm always trying to push the limits of how much can I do with AI? Where is it good? Where is it not? And so I do a webinar every week. And like you, I wanted to make a little promotional poster for the webinar that's not literally just the same thing every single week. And what I found is I was unable to get AI to be good at this task because my webinar announcements, they're pretty text heavy because I want to include the topic and the time and the RSVP information. And it turns out that AI, image models are not great at handling text right now. They're
That's correct.
amazing at cinematic imagery. Like if you want to generate an image of like a Viking with a flaming sword cutting a ship in half, like the AI image will blow your mind. Like it's so, so cool and so good. So AI is amazing at cinematic imagery. It's not that good at sort of text-based graphics. So the solution I came up for myself is I have a really simple template for like the text portion of things, and then I have a space where I stick in a more cinematic image. And that way, like I found the right balance between controlling where I feel like it needs, a bit of human guardrails and letting the AI run wild with its cinematic image in like one portion of the poster.
Yeah. Yeah, great, great. I agree with you totally. That whole idea of classic, if you scroll through YouTube, you're going to see these amazing thumbnails of so many things that are done so well. But there's a lot of text content
Yeah.
inevitably in all of those to help you understand the title or the theme. And you're right. Right now, as it sits, AI graphic gen does not merge text really well.
But here's the crazy thing. I bet when we listen to this 6 months from now, that won't be true anymore. So for example, I was helping a customer out with something, and it seemed like a pretty straightforward use case. Basically, from one of their vendors, they get a PDF of a calendar for a month. And so it looks like a digital calendar, but it's just a PDF. Like it's not actually represented as a calendar. And what they wanted to do was build an AI agent that would automatically scan that PDF and then put all the dates into their Google Calendar. And we just could not get it to work. We tried GPT 4.1. We tried Claude 3.5 Sonnet. We tried Gemini 2.0 Flash. Like for some reason, and it would be these little things. It'd be like off by half an hour. It would get the title wrong, or it would stick things on the wrong day. And then she reached out again like a few days ago, and I was like, oh, let me just try it with the newest model, Gemini 2.5 Pro, and it totally worked. It totally worked. Like the same exact thing that hadn't worked 6 months ago totally worked now. And so I'm constantly trying to update my perspective on what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I'll take that bet. I'm going to make a note in 6 months. I'm
Yeah.
going to tag my
I
calendar
bet
to
you
go
in
check
6 months,
that.
we're going to be able to generate amazing YouTube thumbnails, text included, using AI.
Yeah, Yeah, I'll make a note of that. Well, Jacob, we're about up on time. Thank you so much for sitting in. This is another one of those areas I feel like I could certainly come up with thoughts and questions for a long time.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll have you back in, a couple of months and we will talk about all those great updates that have happened. But tell the folks the best way to get a hold of you if they are interested in knowing more.
So the best way to get hold of me, the easiest thing to do is to follow me on LinkedIn. I post 2 or 3 times a week, and those are mostly just ideas for how you might be able to use AI in your business. They're kind of nibbles, nibbles at AI. And then also every week I host a group lesson where if you're non-technical, if you've never used AI before, if you've never built your own AI agent, you can walk through it. We'll spend an hour together. You and, could be a dozen other people, could be 100 other people. We'll walk through together how to build it end to end. So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Feel free to email me directly, jacob@relay.app if you have any questions. And I hope to see you at one of the live lessons. They're actually really fun. I think everyone enjoys them.
Well, and as I promised at the start of the show, we're going to have links in the show notes. I'll give you the link to jump into Relay app and check it out for yourself. It's real straightforward. He's got a free trial offering and all of that good stuff. And there's tiers and scales. You can get into it as little or as deep as you want. But it's a great tool. I'm encouraged and certainly eager to do more. I've started budgeting time in every one of my days to think about my bot building. So
Totally. Yeah.
um, all done there. Well, Jacob, thanks one last time. Really appreciate you sitting in.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Well, and this part of the show, folks, I always like to remind you, we do have a YouTube version of this show, channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Hop over there, check out the archives. We've already eclipsed the 400 mark, so happy about that. And we got more great things coming down the pipe. If you need to get a hold of me, just jump over to my site, dougthorpe.com. That's Thorpe with an E on the end, .com. We've got a lot of links and some free resources and announcements about new books, etc., coming out. So hope to see you over there. But for now, we're going to sign off, say goodbye. Go out there, make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.